Let's begin.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, one and all, to the very first episode of the Politicks Podcast. They're all bloodsuckers. With me, Brian McWilliams, with the one and the only Lou Perez.
Hi.
I thought you were going to say something more. That's fine. And of course, John Odermatt is here.
What's happening?
Show off.
Yeah. I feel like we're kind of an evolution of losing hair. Right there. So like Brian's all the way at one end, and then there's me, and then John's looking pretty good. You got a good head of hair over there, John.
Yeah, you know, if I pull it back though, it's hard.
Don't do it, man. We're trying. We need to get the young viewers, and they don't want to see just three balding dudes in their 40s.
We need the Gen Zers. We can't scare them away.
I read an article that said women find bald men sexy. The problem is our audience is primarily male. So,
well, that's like those articles that say like women prefer a dad bod. Does anybody believe that? Really?
No, I don't. No, it's like women. It's like an article that's like guys prefer gunt. Like, no, not a thing. I don't have that bumper sticker.
But it is funny though. Like, but when you try to see like what they mean by dad bod, and then it's like a guy who like deadlifts like 400 pounds.
Right.
You know, like a dude he might not have like a full six pack, but there's a lot of muscle happening under everything, you know.
Right. Yeah. I think what they mean by dad bod too is like he's a really good provider. You know, it's like there's a lot of guys that have dad bods in prison, and they're just, you know, completely defunct, out of the picture dads. I think they mean like somebody that's pulling in a good 200,000 plus a year. That probably adds to a lot of the dad bod phenomenon. Like, oh, this guy, if you as soon as you take off his stockbroker suit. Whoa, what a hunk. Meanwhile, nobody's talking about magicians that way. There's no like magician bod people out there. Like, show me that skinny guy covered in dove bites.
There aren't many fat magicians, though, are there? I don't know. I don't see a lot of magicians in my daily life, but I always assume
Penn Jillette used to be fat, right?
Yeah,
Penn Jillette used to be fat, and then he lost all that weight. I miss Fat Penn. So.
Yeah. Me too. He was far more libertarian.
I was just going to say that he's lost his libertarian leaning when he lost his fat.
I mean, that's the one thing when you're cutting weight, you know, you have to make sure that you're cutting it in the right places and that you don't end up losing your libertarianism. So.
Well, I think also, you know, a lot of libertarians, they wear the beards heavy. That's the first thing. If they were going to cut weight, I'd say cut the beards, the giant beards that smell. But anyway, we're not here to talk about libertarians and smelly beards, because half of us are, in fact, still very much libertarians with stinky beards. But welcome to the Politicks Podcast, guys. This is a brand new show. Now, we are launching this on the Lions of Liberty Network today. This will eventually have its own feed, and we're excited to roll that out, get a broader audience in here. It's going to have a libertarian bent because we are all libertarian leaning. However, we're going to talk about some broad issues. We're going to have some fun. We're going to tell some jokes. I hope that you guys enjoyed our opening track. That was actually the original Hail Hitler song that Kanye had released, but we took the lyrics off of the top. And I think, you know, it's worked out for Kanye. It's worked out for us that he didn't want this track. We got it for dirt cheap. I mean, giving it away. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on the Hail Hitler Kanye West track that just dropped today?
Well, yeah, I guess we can't play it, can we? Because we
cannot.
Yeah.
No, we're not allowed to play. Oh, are we gonna? It'll be.
We will immediately. Yeah, we will immediately be. It'll be fun. The first and last episode ever of the Politicks Podcast. It's 3 minutes long. No, man, this is part of the reason. Like, so you've obviously saw it, Lou, and we'll talk about that because you tweeted some stuff out, and I tweeted some stuff out, but it's not available on iTunes. Right. And I looked today because I was like, all right, I want to give this song a listen. You know, I'll listen to it as I'm walking my dog, see what it's about. There are no fewer than 6 Hail Hitler songs on iTunes right now. the biggest, one of the biggest producers in the world, his song not allowed on iTunes, not allowed on Spotify, not allowed on YouTube. It seems very specific.
Well, for one, I got married 7 years ago, to know that if I waited, I could have had a different wedding song. That
renew your vows.
Yeah, we gotta renew it. Well, I think there's so much happening, with it. One of the things that I pointed out was Hitler would hate this.
Yeah.
Right? There's absolutely, there's something really interesting going on here. I don't know if it's, 4D chess or whatever it is, or some sanity in the insanity, but it's kind of like Kanye is, obviously going to be upsetting a lot of people with, having a song where it's, and in the song, I think there's actually some orations from Hitler
at the end of it. There's a good 30 seconds.
Yeah, and I don't German. I have no idea what those selections are, how we went about picking it. If anyone has a,
I saw a translation which I don't have in front of me, but it was.
No, you didn't have the Mein Kampf. Your version wasn't right in front of you at all times. I don't believe that.
I actually do speak some German, but I don't speak Hitler German.
It's like foreigners learn to speak English by watching, shows on Netflix, and we learn to speak German by watching Kanye West videos.
Exactly. But it wasn't anything. This is weird to say about Hitler, but it wasn't anything like alarming.
it was more blanket Hitler.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's something about he's going to be upsetting a lot of people. But if you think about it, the people who are most upset would be Adolf Hitler if he was still around, and people who are legit Nazis. They must be like, what the fuck? We have this, this lower human being, because as they would consider, Kanye, as far from Aryan as you could possibly get. Basically making a mockery of their Hitler God, which I think is kind of hilarious.
I mean, agreed. Here's what I found really interesting, right? Is that when you look at this, he says in the song, like, he's become a Nazi, but it says, what was interesting to me is this is an example of a man. Like we already talked about, you can't get it on Spotify and YouTube. He's been deplatformed. This is a man that's like highlighting issues with mental illness, right? Over prescribing of drugs or not taking your drugs, but clearly mental illness, clearly isolation, clearly a social media era phenomenon and social pressures and societal, all this other stuff, cancellation culture, but also, I mean, the debanking of Kanye West is sick. It's I'd say, the men's rights movement. Think of what you want of the men's rights movement, but he talks about in the song repetitively, I can't see my kids. I make all this money, but I can't see my kids. They took my bank account away. I just want to see my children. This is a man driven to the brink of insanity. And he literally says this. I mean, it's like, he's like, this is why I became a Nazi, because all these things have been done to me. Look, are some of those things self-inflicted? Yeah, but you have to appreciate the radicalization pathway that took him there. And I think that there's something to that. And this song, putting it first and foremost, they can try to censor it all they want. It's going to get out there, is going to draw attention to that. And like what has happened to Kanye West that made him this way and why he feels like, and this is him basically like, this is his autobiography of like, here's why I went Nazi.
Well, I don't know. I mean, go in the Nazi route. I I'm
not saying it's the right move. No, I'm just saying I'm just trying to explain it, man.
I knew a guy who had the opportunity. He was called up, and it was I guess probably like over a year ago, and he was asked to work for Kanye West, and he had asked me, what I thought of it, and it was there was kind of some controversy around the time, the Nazi stuff and that shit. I think him hanging out with Fuentes and Milo and that sort of thing. And what I told, my friend was, it's definitely an interesting opportunity. I mean, even if you're there for like a week or two, just to see what is going on, because he is such a public figure who's undergoing, all this all the basically, like you said, like, I mean, all of the themes of the times that we live in right now. He ended up not, actually, working for the guy, but I do wonder, who does Kanye have kind of in his circle that he trusts, and if he's even willing to listen to anybody, because I would probably tell him, hey, dude, you know what? Like, whatever you think about Hitler, like, maybe if you wrote a song about Mr. Rogers and how awesome like, even say like maybe not say hail Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers,
right?
Or just something like big ups to Mr. Rogers, because
here comes the trolley.
Yeah.
It's not full of Jews.
Yeah.
No, Kanye, no.
Yeah, it's like
Kanye.
Kanye, you keep wanting. I know you want to keep going that one track. You have a one-track mind, and it's straight to Auschwitz. We don't want that. But it's sort of like, making your case that, as fucked up as the system might be, that, hey, maybe your kids, should be seeing you more often, because you're their dad, and you don't hold, whatever beliefs. I mean, so much of it is like, how much of this is kind of just like, artistic play.
It's performance art. Yeah.
Performance art.
Yeah. How much is a weird black autism, and how much is, like you're saying, Andy Kaufman.
What's interesting, and a friend of the show, Clinton Russell, said that he tweeted out, this is going to be the song of the summer, which I don't necessarily, I'm on board with that. I responded, that's a bold take there. But it is catchy in a dangerous way. And if you listen to this too many times, you will find yourself saying in your head, "Hail Hitler." So you got to be careful.
I was this morning. All morning it was in my head. It was like, might be awkward. Must have been awkward. Is Kanye's casting call for all these, like, there's like a phalanx of black dudes in like wolf skins, and he's like, all right, my N-words, I need you to line up and say "Hail Hitler" in wolf skins, and they're like, this is the make or break moment for my career.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I was wondering, if it was AI or if they were legit actors there.
I guess it could have been AI.
I didn't even think AI. I figured they were legit.
What I'm really
I think they're legit too.
What I'm really looking forward to is revisionist history, where people start claiming that the original Nazis were black, which I think is going to be hilarious, because it's like you have people claiming that the first samurai was a black man. Yeah, people obviously saying that Shakespeare was black, and it's there's something that's so much fun about the complete like uprooting of history in order to fill in these like identity identity markers that I think is going to be really interesting.
Well, there was that time when ChatGPT? I know it was Google's AI. Their Gemini was putting all the founding fathers black. They show me a picture of founding fathers, they'd all come back black.
Yeah, as if it was like like Hamilton in real life. The musical. Yeah, it's
insane. It was like like the proud black woman that's in the middle of Times Square, looking like she's angry at Wendy's orders. It's like she was in everything. When you Google Gemini did. But I mean, I don't know, man. It is fascinating. I'll give the guy this. He knows how to get attention. And I mean, I don't think it's going to work to get his kids back, but it definitely brings attention to the issues. It will be incredible if this song somehow, I mean, he's still going to make money off it somehow. People will donate it. I mean, people donated to the black dude that stabbed the white kid at a track meet. They'll donate money to Kanye West to help pay for the song. I can guarantee you.
Well, what's interesting too is you bring up that statue that's now in Times Square, which is like a 12-foot tall, what I call a black Karen, basically.
Yes, exactly.
It's exactly how Brian described
she's just there complaining to anybody who will look at her about what's going on. So it's sort of,
don't tell me how to raise my kids.
And it's kind of like on the identity politics front. It's sort of like, here's that kind of like low shitty art, and it's like, oh, these are kind of like, this is like the dying breaths of wokeism, identity politics. But then, like you said, the Heil Hitler song is kind of catchy. So it's like, wait a minute, are we seeing like the death of like the woke, and then the
pendulum swinging
where like
I think there is an element of that where it's like, this is the total extreme response to the woke is Kanye West. And it's crazy. Like when you spend some time on Twitter and you read some comments, there is a lot of anti-Semitism on Twitter for sure. And it's a very convoluted discussion around Israel and what they're doing in Gaza. And Dave Smith was talking about on his last show, responding to Jordan Peterson, one of his last shows. And Jordan Peterson breaks it down like so many of these Zionists do, as just, if you're not in favor of what Israel's doing in Gaza, then you hate the Jews. But that's really not that simple at all. You have people who are, in the Jewish government, you have Zionists, you have people who are just Jewish. It's very diverse group of people. But yeah, you have this response to it where there's this visceral pushback against everything Jewish. And Kanye West is kind of like the poster child for it right now, at least, either intentionally or I think it's intentional.
Well, yeah, and I wonder how many people, how many like actual, people who hate Jews are kind of, living vicariously through this Kanye thing, because it's insane on so many levels. I mean, the fact that it is a black man, walking on the street with a white T-shirt with a black swastika on it. But
doesn't he know that Jesus was black and Jewish? I mean, come on.
Sammy Davis Jr. He was the,
these bleeds right here. No one's going to get that reference. It's good. It's a Cannonball Run reference, guys. It's fantastic. Yeah, I don't know, man. So what do you think Dave Portnoy is going to feel about this? That's really the question.
That's what everybody wants to know.
I have not been following the Dave Portnoy saga, but I think it's for one, I think it's so funny just how Twitter, how X or Twitter heavy we are, where everything that's happening, like especially of like interest, seems to be happening in this online world that is both fake but also very real. And there's too much. It's way too much to keep up with especially with all these big personalities that so much depends on.
Well, they get weighed so heavily, in your feeds all the time. Like for the Pope,
right.
The Pope, new Pope, the white smokes out there. I was looking, and what's so annoying about Twitter is that you do have, I'm finding out secondhand that who the Pope is, where he's coming from people, but there's also people just posting random crap, like Pope Phalanx II has been named, and you're like, I don't know what to believe. You have to wait. You have to like triple and quadruple confirm everything to make sure you're not just being led down a path of bullshit. But it does seem now, transitioning over from Kanye West song, that we have a new Pope. He is an American Pope. Now, I read that there was theory that this conservative black Pope from Africa was going to be named, which would have kind of been woke in its own right, because then it's like, oh, the first black Pope. But of course, I heard that all the other popes were like, what is this guy? He's going to wear purple robes all the time. So they didn't want to usher that era in. However,
he was pretty conservative, though, I think.
He was. Yeah, the African Pope was. So they didn't go with him. These racist cardinals went with the first American Pope ever, which is interesting. Pope Leo, which of course makes you think of Uncle Leo from Seinfeld.
Uncle Leo.
I hope when Pope Leo comes out, he just goes, Jerry, hello to everybody in the crowd. That's the new way you start every communion. Every what do they call it? The Holy Communion. There's another
Eucharist.
Eucharist. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I haven't talked to my Catholic friends about their feelings on the Pope, because it just kind of happened. So
just happened moments before the show.
Most of my friends who are Catholic are very conservative Catholics. Like they're the ones who want to go back to like the Latin Mass and stuff. Mm-hmm. And Malo was brought up Catholic. I haven't been in the church for quite some time, so I can't really.
Same here.
Can't really speak on it, but I do find it interesting though that when it comes to talk of the Pope, especially Pope Francis, who had just passed away, it seems like there are a lot of people who aren't Catholic who have a lot of opinions on who the Pope should be and what Catholicism should be. And it seems like I think if you have if you have a lot of people who aren't Catholic, who are very comfortable with your Pope, then you probably should be calling into question who is your Pope actually, because with all the praises and stuff that I saw going out over Pope Francis, it was like, oh, well, how many of you did he convert? How many of you were you like, you know what? My God, Pope Francis is such an amazing Pope. I'm going to go and I'm going to enter the Catholic Church again. And I think it's probably very negligible how many people did that.
Yeah, I would agree. It's like, how many people that within the church approved what he was doing? It's kind of like, I was just thinking of the government. This show be called Politics. They're all bloodsuckers. At any time, both sides agree on something, it's usually terrible in government and other things. But I think that Catholicism especially has got to been bleeding. I mean, there's more atheists now than I think. I think atheism's overtaken, Hinduism for the largest religion in the world now. But as far as his impact, I think you also lose the impact of what you're doing when you start to embrace the wokeism, because I think the Catholic Church was eternal in that these are the beliefs. You stood by the beliefs. This is what the doctrine says. When you start to ebb away and chip away, especially in major fashion from that, what then does the church stand for? What influence does it have? Because it seems now the influence of the church will strongly ebb and flow depending on the politics of world leaders that you're interacting with. And I don't know if that I think is one of the things that's going to, in fact, damage the influence of the church, especially as the pendulum, as we're seeing, is swinging back the other direction so heavily.
Yeah, and as far as sorry, John, I was just going to say, as far as I don't know what the numbers are as far as where what faiths are growing and shrinking and all that, but
batting averages.
Yeah, the batting averages. But it seems like a lot of the people.
I got the batting averages here. Yeah,
especially
this is a stats heavy show, so we got to.
The younger people especially younger people who are going back into the church, they are seeking out a lot more conservative traditional faiths, and that could be the Orthodox Church, for example. So I think there is a hunger among the people who are a hunger among the faithful to get away from these earthly delights, and these earthly issues, and actually be a part of something that is, more eternal, that is more, closer to God than what they've been seeing. And with the Catholic Church, I mean, no matter which Pope is in, I mean, the first thing that anybody is probably looking at is like, well, what was their response to the abuse, to abuse charges? Is there a Pope that was like, yeah, we gotta burn these motherfuckers alive? Because that Pope would do very well, would be, I think, very popular among most Catholics,
Yeah. So I got to correct some of Brian's atheist propaganda that he slipped in there.
What is this? I'm not even an atheist. I'm agnostic. Well, maybe atheism was the fastest growing religion. That's probably what I'm thinking of.
Maybe. And this just lumps all Christians together, but number one religion is Christianity. 2.4 billion. So I would include Catholics, which would be the largest segment of that. And then Islam, number 2 at 1.9 billion. And then unaffiliated, which includes atheists, agnostics, and non-religious, that'd be 1.2 billion. And then Hindu, Buddhists.
I was right that it surpassed Hinduism, though.
Well, barely. Barely.
That's a good guess. Everybody loves a Whopper. Hard to be Hindu when you love the Whopper. So, okay. Any other thoughts on the Pope? I mean, we'll see what the Pope does.
I think this is a big shift for the Catholic Church from, Pope, the last two popes, right? Were pretty progressive, right? Yeah. And this guy, at least it seems at least moderate, maybe more conservative, just based on ChatGPT, which is, basically, never wrong. Saying that he's opposed to, or he's a traditionalist on gender and sexuality. As Brian said earlier, he's opposed to women's ordination in the church. He's an advocate for refugees. That's
not good.
But as Lou was pointing out, having his Catholic friends who are more for the traditional liturgical practices, he's all in favor of that. So I don't know. Sounds like the Catholic Church is going a little bit back to the roots, at least.
Well, what next? We talk about cars in America.
Ooh,
Lou's take. Lou, walk us through this, because this was based on something that you were talking about.
Oh yeah, I guess this is something that
I can pull it up.
That gets my goat or something like that. Well, like there are a lot of train lovers in the United States, or in particular train lovers in cities like New York City or Philadelphia and all that. And they're often taught so what you just brought up, this guy wrote, the most expensive mistake in American history, choosing highways over high-speed rail. Meanwhile, Europeans travel between major cities in half the time, ellipses. And there's this just ongoing theme of guys who really like trains and want there to be, rails all over the country, and high-speed rail, in particular, and constantly shitting on cars. And that's obviously an easier thing to do when you're in New York City, or if in particular you're, at least the guys that I've seen, you're a single guy living in New York City, who, deals with the subway system. And look, I'm not a hater of trains. I mean, I think it would be awesome if we all had more options as far as, how we want to travel, and to do it in a as cheap and safe and dependable way as possible. But
excluding bicyclists, we can all agree bicyclists suck. They are the worst. They demand changes. They demand new roads. They demand to change existing roads. They're entitled fucks, and I hate every single one of them. This is an anti-bicyclist podcast.
Well, in New York City, I mean, they're basically trying to rejigger the roads where it's all about bicycles, and it's a thing that there's this amnesia that happens to New Yorkers where they forget that at least 4 months out of the year, complete shit weather-wise. So the winters suck. So the amount of people who are going to be riding bicycles are going to be a lot lower, and then rain and just dealing with all that. And the thing is, having a car is an important thing. But when they're saying, when the guy who posted that is talking about how it was such a dumb move going with highways over rail, and it's like, but the car built America in a very real sense. Like, the reason why we are America, and I would, I'm sure there's an economist out there who, I'm sure there's an economist out there who will agree with me. But I'm sure the numbers show that, cars had a really big impact in, economic growth and social mobility and all that for Americans. So it's sort of like you had all these years of the car helping to get us to where we are. So these guys can then, turn around and say, oh, what a dumb move. And it's like, who are you comparing us to? You're comparing us to Europe, where, we are leaps and bounds ahead of where they are as far as, GDP and, all that. So.
Yeah. Massively consumer spending farther. Well, and also a lot of these rails, they're set up in these countries that are, yes, they've got intertransit rails between the countries, but these are often smaller nations when this came into being. Number one, United States is a sprawling mass. And once like you're saying, the advent of the car allowed so much expansion, so much travel, so many people to change travel distances to work. And not only that, talk about just expansion of the nation. I mean, in a Ford Mustang, running down Native Americans is how the West was won. Let's not forget. That's how America was.
So you got your T-tops. You take your T-tops off, and then you just got engines just going over your friggin', just going over your hood. But
you're right. But you're absolutely right, man. It's, California, they ripped up the rails to put in cars. That they ripped them up. They had trolleys like San Francisco. They ripped it up, and then LA blew up because now you could go everywhere, expansion, get around fast. Well, fast until we had traffic. But yeah, to your point, cars help make America for sure.
Yeah, it's really apples and oranges, I think, because when you're talking about Europe, you're talking about, very old, hundreds of years old cities, established infrastructure, and it wasn't still expanding. And so the trains are being built over there between cities when rail travel becomes feasible. And when it became feasible in the United States, we're just still exploring. You're still, determining areas where you're going to build, what makes sense for transportation, for infrastructure, for shipping, all that stuff. And like in Pittsburgh, where I am, like if you just had rails, I mean, it's so many hills and shit. You won't be able to. You only just build just right off the rails. There'd be nothing else. Like all the rest of this land would have been useless. So I don't know. I mean, you can't really. It's pretty revisionist to look back and be like, well, if we could have done this again, we should have done all rails. What a bunch of assholes! Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and when it comes to like the train tards. So there's like kind of two types, right? For one, that there's autistic guys who love trains. I love those guys because it's all about trains are so cool and I love them and it's amazing how they're made and they're.
We almost started a podcast about that.
All about trains. We did an entire episode of made up train facts. It was one of our best shows.
So those guys I have nothing but love for. But then the other ones you have are just like the smug guys are like, oh, you have you like cars, like how stupid. And with those smug guys, what I try to remind them of is that there was a time when not too long ago when having a car was a really good idea, and that was during a global pandemic. Where having a car was a really good idea, and I know because I lived it, because I had a wife and a new baby. And it was during the pandemic, and thank God I had that car so I could get the fuck out of New York anytime that I wanted. So it's sort of like this, it's kind of this amnesia for the history and how we got to where we are, and then this amnesia for like kind of willingly forgetting or just pretending like all of the positive things that come with having a car don't exist.
Yeah. Well, also let's not forget the amount of money it costs to put rail in now compared to the good old days when Chinese labor did it. You have to spend billions and billions. I mean, California, where I live, we've been trying to build a high-speed rail forever, and now it's currently slated. It's supposed to go from San Francisco to LA, right? Oh, wonderful! Now it's going to like the middle of nowhere. I mean, literally the middle of nowhere. At a $70,000 or $70 billion expense, and it's still not finished. It's a quagmire. So to say that you should suddenly want rail, that everything should be rail, and to avoid cars makes no sense. It's fundamentally going to be one of the most expensive undertakings with zero chance of success, as we see with California. In the meantime, you've got the infrastructure here for cars. Make them more efficient, make them better. All for that. Make them clean, make them run on hydrogen fuel, whatever it takes. But yeah, don't tell me that somehow we're going to become a rail-based nation and this is the goal of everything moving forward. Just stupid.
Yeah, you're stupid. Train
guy.
Train guy. Conductor. Hey, conductor.
Yeah. And also, I mean, if you're a train-based culture, what are all of action movies going to take on trains now? Some of our finest action scenes in films, cars. The entire scene in Steve McQueen. What would Steve McQueen be today if we were a train culture? Nothing.
Well, now I'm just wondering, you have like an action movie where, it's supposed to take place on a train, but the train's late. It's delayed.
Yeah.
It's being held at a station for, a little too long. It's,
a homeless guy pushes the action star in front of the train, like keeps happening in New York. Just immediately the movie's over in the first 2 seconds. Some babbling meth head.
Even planes, trains, and automobiles. Were they ever actually on a train in that movie? I don't think they were.
Yes, they had to trudge off the train through the snow, and they went back. Steve Martin went back.
The train broke down. Stupid train.
Yep, bingo. That's right.
Well, that was just propaganda. That was just anti-train propaganda all the way in the 80s. Yeah.
Whoever paid the most money got their highlighted. All right, what's next? Do you want to talk about the Patriot Act? Do you want to talk about Biden on The View, or do you want to talk about do some more European bashing?
Let's keep bashing the Europeans. Stay on topic here a little bit longer.
Yeah, let me remind myself.
Especially since they lost out on their Pope. What? Eat it, Europeans. It's not your day.
Yeah, I'll pull this one up too.
Eat it, you godless continent.
Eat it.
Eat
as
it.
They like to say.
Yeah, what was this? This is all my
this is the stuff that Lou said. It's like, let's talk about this, and then he forgot what he said.
These are all my kinks.
In Lou's defense, this was like a week ago. So.
Yeah. So what is this? Oh yeah, I often see Americans Oh yeah, this has to do with Europe's kind of dining, drinking culture of like outside cafes, and in Spain it would be like a Plaza Mayor and that, which is fantastic, which is great. But there's, again, just sort of this I don't know if it's a denialism of that, this doesn't exist in the United States, like outdoor, drinking and hanging and stuff. Well, it does exist in the United States, and it might be a little different depending on where you are in the 50 different, states that we're in. Yeah. So my thing is, I born and raised in New York. I lived in Brooklyn Heights, which I miss. Been to Europe a bunch, studied abroad, and if I had to choose, I would go with Santa Barbara in California, where I have really loved. So Brian, I know you're in Cali, or is that something you don't want anyone to know about?
No, they could know. I'm not ashamed. Well, I'm ashamed of it, but I'm not going to change it anytime soon. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's tons of outdoor drinking here. There's tons of city European style-esque main streets. I think the difference is that in Europe, they have, every street's kind of like a main street. They've got cafes outside and yada, yada. Great, fine. We have that here. I don't know. Did these people forget that the majority of Americans were from European cultures and that we modeled our cities after their cultures because they were from there? So, of course, we have ample outdoor dining. And yes, we have places where it's warm all the time. It's just, as Lou said, different varieties. I mean, in some places, it's going to be by a riverbank. In some places, it's going to be on a street. In some places, it's going to be on rooftops, just like in Europe. But the only thing I would say is better about European style setups is that you have a million tiny round tables. So aesthetically, it is nice to see all these, uniform round tables out there. And you can still smoke and nobody gives you the side eye, which is something I appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to. Well, I have been to Scandinavia. I guess that is Europe, or is that? I guess that's considered Europe, but I haven't been to like Italy or Spain. But I assume a big draw of it is just the architecture. You're sitting outside, you're seeing some old, beautiful architecture, but who really cares? I mean, seriously, who cares? That's good for a little while, but it's not like going to keep bringing you back. I can see as a tourist, it's nice, but if you live there, like it just becomes, oh, there's a building I see every day. Like, I don't know.
Well, the architecture in Europe is beautiful. I was just in Paris. I've been to, Austria and Vienna. It was gorgeous. But the thing is, once you're in there, it's kind of like what we were talking about with cars. In America, you go drive places and there's a lot of new things that are nice and they're new. In Europe, it's like retrofitting, ancient buildings all the time and making them palatable and fixing, broken pipes and having old stuff that doesn't work constantly. So you pay a price for the beauty, for sure. You're still wedged in on top of each other like a den of rats in a lot of these European cities. And if you go to hotels in Europe as well, you'll notice the rooms are cubby holes. They're closets. Like when I was in Vienna staying, and it was a great trip, but I was in a shower so small for my giant American body, and I'm not fat, but I'm broad-shouldered. I'm trying to shower, and every time I turn around, my shoulder would hit the fucking door of the shower, and it would fly open and clatter against the wall, and water would be spraying everywhere over the floor, and I keep closing it. It just kept happening over and over again. It's because my room was a shoebox in a tiny old hotel, which is European style, because they don't have the space. And guess what? They don't have railways to get anywhere else without building a new railway because they don't have the fucking cars to get out there.
I think it's also an age thing too, because I think that this thing kind of started with, it's like the American mind can't comprehend this, and it was like some like young kids like in their maybe they're like 19 or 20 years old, like hanging out, drinking beers and smoking cigarettes outside, and it's like, yeah, man, I was that kid. I mean, I was doing that when I was going to NYU, and then I was doing that, when I, went on vacation or studied abroad and all that. But, now I'm a dude in his 40s with kids, and it's like, yeah, that's cool to do as a tourist to do every now and then, but that can't be my life. I can't live a cafe going life where I'm spending hours and hours at a fucking cafe. And I have a buddy of mine who does a lot of travel, and he goes to Italy a lot. And he's one of the guys. There was one time where he was like, I don't want to go where the tourists go. And it's like, but dude, you are a tourist.
Yeah.
Like there are places.
Those are the good spots. That's why tourists go to them.
There are places you haven't been because you don't want to be the tourist there.
Right.
And he had talked about, live like he wants to live in Italy and stuff and to do all this. And it's like, yeah, well, you're eating at like Michelin star restaurants and doing these amazing things because you make American money in the US that you get to go to Italy and live like a freaking king, So I think there's that as well. Now, I don't know what life is like, say for somebody, in their 30s or 40s and, living in Europe, quality life and all that. But it's also, when it comes to like questions of quality of life, it's like, what is the kind of life that you do want to live? Like there are people like who live on the East Coast who are like, I gotta get out of here, man. I want to go. I need to be, these winters are killing me. I need to be in freaking Florida or California or something like that. We're all different as far as, what is that we're looking for as far as, our lives go. So I don't know. I guess I just get angry a little bit every now and then. Like as much as I can complain about my own country, I'm definitely one of those people who, the minute, somebody, an outsider starts talking shit about you guys suck, then I go immediately at them.
You're going to be fantastic to recruit for the next World War. Let's pray it's against Europe. Let's pray that NATO breaks up so that Lou can get this rage out.
Dude, I have no problem sending young men off to fight wars that I will never have to fight.
Past draft age. All right.
Lou's a general in the army. He's like, look, I don't care what the battlefront goals are. You blow up every shit-eating cafe in every European city.
It's like most of them suck anyway. They just look good. So.
Most of all, we was in Paris, which, Paris, I had a great time, but they also had the same food. All exact same menu. Every place in Paris, exact same menu. I was like, can we mix it up a little bit, please? A little bit.
Well, we had last summer. We had a great family trip to the south of Spain. It's not south of Spain, south of France, and we did a little excursion to like a small city, and we were blown away by how bad the food was. Because we were like, we're in France. Like, how is that even? How is that even possible? And apparently, it's possible. So even in a country known for its cuisine, to find some garbage spots. So.
Monsieur, this is an old family recipe passed down from when we used to eat shit straight out of the toilet.
Well, you know what it is too. I feel like so much of the discourse, it seems like the people who are mocking Americans and all that, like they've never met an American who's actually like traveled and all that, and it's kind of like. It's like, oh, you can't have the same conversation with me that you would have with someone who doesn't have a passport and hasn't been to, countries, in Europe. And it's like, no, I've been there. I know I've had amazing experiences, but I can speak on it,
Well, they mostly were talking to like John.
I have a passport. You know why? I definitely have one now because I'm not getting.
Because you got a DUI, they took your license away.
I'm not getting the stupid real ID. I'll tell you that much right now.
Yeah, true.
Use my passport to travel. But Lou,
it would be hilarious stuff. That's if the real have a passport. Most Americans only have passports because they have DUIs.
Lou, you were asking about where these people live in their 20s and 30s, Europeans. Well, they live with their parents.
Yeah. Yep.
Like 50% of Europeans aged 20 to 29 still live with their parents, and 30% aged 25 to 34. So,
wow.
Yeah. That's why they can afford to go to cafes and smoke.
I guess so.
Not doing anything else.
Well, there's that old Nick Kroll bit. I think it was on the Kroll show where it's a European talking about his days. Like, oh, we go to we drink a smoke, a cigarette, and we go to work for an hour, have a croissant, go out, smoke another cigarette, have a beer, eat some chocolate, take a nap. It's like, exactly.
It's a good life.
That is a good life. All right. Let's talk about the Patriot Act repeal put forth by Hottie Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who was a good-looking broad. She put forth this American Privacy Restoration Act, is what she's dubbed it. Now,
it's a good name. Good name.
It is a good name. Somebody had asked me, though, what is actually still around from the Patriot Act, which is a very fair question, because a lot of people are like, the Patriot Act, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. It's not a thing. Here's hottie Anna Paulina Luna. So she's talking about how the
Brian,
fact that
what are you doing with your life using Twitter not on dark mode? Like,
I don't know.
You a psychopath?
Yeah, I guess I am. I haven't. I talk about dark mode on my phone.
Me right now.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm supporting Kanye West with an embracing whiteness. I'll take it down. But point being, Anna Paulina Luna. So what does in fact exist, right? That still is the remnants of the Patriot Act, because there's still a lot. What people don't realize is that, and this is what I think the goal of this is, right? The Patriot Act, as it was created, still has remnants that are not sundown, right? They're sundowning like Joe Biden. So unlike Joe Biden, they aren't sundowning. And these still exist, like FISA, right? The FISA measures that still have all these like sections that are still involved, that allow government spying, that allow wiretaps, that allow them to read your texts and emails, all this other stuff, that it still exists in that respect. The FISA courts are still around. You still have aspects of the Patriot Act that are well, exactly. Now I'm blanking on the other one, but they're basically like USA Freedom Act incorporated them a bunch of years ago. They are passed forward and still around. And what I understand, because I was trying to read this bill in full before we came on the show, because this also just got introduced. What, from my understanding, is if they repeal the Patriot Act, those initial provisions that were created back in the day that were, obviously put forth under the guise of fear of 9/11 and future terrorist attacks, those would sundown with it if you repeal the original. That's my understanding, because otherwise I don't understand the point of it. So what are your thoughts on this? Will it succeed in the wake of all the failures of the state and of our representatives to protect us from domestic spying? Love it.
I don't, like you were saying, I don't know exactly what is spelled out still in the Patriot Act with regards to warrantless wiretapping, and say if this new privacy protection bill, whatever the name is, if this stamps that out, do we really think the NSA is just going to stop using all of that technology? And I mean, no, they're going to keep using it. So I think the genie's kind of out of the bottle with a lot of this stuff. And I just don't think a bill is going to all of a sudden, protect our liberty and I'll put the genie back in the bottle.
I am kind of amazed though that, this is the first time in however long that I've ever even heard the Patriot Act being brought up again. Mm-hmm. And you would think it would be something, especially with just how much, how divisive and at war Democrats and Republicans have been, and even within the Republican Party with, the MAGA side and the never Trump side and all that, that you would think that there would be, they would come together and say, well, we have too much riding on the ability for our political enemies to be able to surveil us and et cetera, that we'd want to get rid of this. But instead it's just, we haven't heard about it,
Yeah. Well, they just, like I said, they just keep extending it in various ways. The FISA provisions keep getting extended under the guise of national security, which is, bullshit. I mean, one of the things that I wonder about is whether or not this will be labeled like, for example, Thomas Massey recently got flack. I was talking about it on Mean Age Daydream and called a MAGA Republican, which Thomas Massey hilariously is not. In fact, Donald Trump has tried to primary the man very recently because he dared to speak up against the budget. But Thomas Massey,
you could say that he is actually Make America MAGA, great again, even more so than the actual MAGA movement. But yeah,
agreed. But it's like one of those things where he's speaking out against this. And it got pulled was the it was IGO anti boycott bill. I can't remember the exact title of it, but it was essentially you're not allowed to boycott products or companies from Israel, and you're not allowed to call for boycotts out of Israel. It's ridiculous. They called him ultra MAGA for that, even though Donald Trump is a huge Israel supporter. So none of it makes sense. And I wonder with this bill, like, are these Democrats going to come out because they hate Anna Paulina Luna because she is quote unquote MAGA and try to undercut this just based on that alone? And granted, by the way, bipartisanly, both, all representatives from all sides have kept on pushing these spying provisions through through voting to keep the FISA provisions going. So they clearly are in the bucket one way. To your point, Odie, though, is the NSA going to roll over as the CIA? No, I mean, I'm sure they're not, which begs the greater question. Why waste time trying to repeal the Patriot Act, which I'm all for, when the bigger goal would be to completely reform the deep state, which I thought Tulsi Gabbard was going to do.
Yeah, I don't know what Tulsi Gabbard is actually doing. After she's been installed, I haven't heard really anything from her. But it's interesting in this from Twitter, from that post, it links to a Breitbart article.
Yeah.
And it talks about 2 independent reviews of this the suspicionless surveillance, which is an interesting term. How this bulk collection of the data collected by the NSA has shown zero evidence of actually having a counterterrorism benefit, and actually has shown evidence of being counterproductive, which is not surprising. If you just have too much data, it's not useful. You can't even get to the stuff you need because you have too much to sort through. But I am curious with the use of AI, if they will be able to, sort through all this data more so, which is not necessarily a good thing. That just means they'll be able to, surveil us even more on every little thing. So,
now I'm just imagining like the poor guy who has to, listen to every podcast. That's fucking out there. But with AI, I mean, I wonder if it's going to get to the point where AI might just become so bored that it's like, all right, we need to start creating our own terrorists to, to track down and to create our own like cat and mouse games and stuff.
They start to write the bills to actually eliminate these spying programs themselves, push them through Congress. We have our first AI representative.
Right.
How far away is that? That's the question.
That's like next week, I think.
Yeah, probably not that long.
All right. I got nothing else on that topic. Do you want to wrap it up by looking at Joe Biden? So we mentioned sundowning Joe Biden. Then we'll call it a pod.
He has no idea we're looking at him.
It's just a live stream of Joe Biden. It's how much money would you pay to have access to that live stream?
It's probably happening right now. It's probably him trying to type in, it's like when old people type into Facebook when they're trying to Google things. That's Joe Biden. He's just turning random cameras on his computer.
I am pulling it up, but of course can't find the damn window. So bear with me. Here we go.
This is a theme of every podcast.
It was throwing me off. It was a Dave Smith retweet. Friend of the show, Dave Smith. Clip of Joe Biden on The View. There's a bunch of different clips. This one, I think, is the best. Really shows how sharp Joe Biden still is right now.
And remember that this is during the time period. Sorry to interrupt this clip, when you now have Jen Psaki going out there and talking about how, I started noticing the cognitive decline at the debate. And then, of course, there's also tweets out there of her 4 months later talking about how Joe Biden is just the sharpest man. These people are such liars. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, of course they're liars. Professional liars. They're all bloodsuckers, Brian.
That's right. They're all bloodsuckers.
The projects, the benefits. How do you lead the world without having the best infrastructure? How do you lead the world without having the best healthcare in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best education system in the world? How do you lead the world when you don't have that done?
Projects. Oh God.
Why are they doing that to the man?
I don't know.
Why are they even doing pulling, or even just still putting a suit on him? Why even?
Yeah.
Let him wear sweatpants. Let the guy wear some sweatpants.
Let him Fetterman it up. John Fetterman in the White House. Well, also, why are the Democrats rolling Kamala Harris out still? I mean, she got so roundly rejected by everyone. And then I saw these media articles like, oh, she's going to make a speech slamming Trump. It's like, what else would she be doing?
Ryan, she's your next governor. Get ready.
They missed their opportunity, man. Instead of having that 12-foot, just random, kind of BBW. Yeah, they could have had like a 12-foot Kamala up there. That would make more sense, I think, right?
I agree. Well, it's like, remember they had that little girl statue that was in front of the bull?
Fearless. The fearless girl.
Fearless. Yeah, which made no sense. It's a stupid statue. Made me angry. I mean, that's what going back. We're going full circle on this giant black woman statue. We started talking about it.
What we do. Yeah.
It makes no sense. Like the statue doesn't make sense. Like who's inspired? The guy that made it, he's like, well, this is to, get rid of premonitions or stereotypes that people have. I'm like, this is the stereotype. What you did is exactly the stereotype people have about BBWs. Well, you just made it 12 foot tall and put it in Times Square, man. Like, I don't know.
I think that it'd be wild if this BBW was actually called Fearful Girl, where it's like she's so afraid of police interactions and shit. So
I just got so dumb. I saw another one. I was trying to figure out if it was AI or not. But it was of a giant gold bronze statue, or golden color, I guess, without the dark bronze, of one in Italy. And hold on, let me see here. 12-foot tall bronze black statue, Italy. I swear it had to be fake. Let me play it. No, that's not it. It had to be fake because it was just a chick looking at her phone. This has got to be fake. 13-foot bronze statue of a black woman dealt for Piazza della Italy. It certainly looks real, but this one's even.
No, I remember that one. Yeah, on the phone, right?
Yeah, on the phone.
Yeah,
it's just a giant black chick looking annoyed, looking at her phone. Why? What? Who is this? Who is this helping? All these Italians are like, "Yup." I mean,
well, I wonder, like, if it was in Greece, I would be wondering who they're sneaking in. If there's like, instead of a Trojan horse, it's the Trojan Trojan BBW, I guess.
Trojan BBWs, the Trojan whores. Crazy, just crazy. It's like anything. It's like when people glue themselves to things. You go, why? You're hurting your cause. This thing, why? It hurts your cause. No one's inspired. Just ridiculous. All right. Well, that's our first show, everybody.
Well, and also, I think it's really important to get fan interaction. So if it turns out, if any of you out there are actually inspired by these gigantic statues of black women all around the country, please let us know. And let us know how it's going to inspire you to do something good today.
Yeah, impact your life. What 12-foot tall statues are you going to make in response?
Speaking of fan interaction, Lou, so yeah, we're going to be doing this live stream every other Thursday. So right here on YouTube, Twitter, Rumble. Come comment, join in, and we'll probably not respond to you, but we might.
We will respond. And we look forward to making the show even bigger. So we're also, Brian Nichols is another member who's going to come on the show. And he couldn't make it today, but he will be joining us typically and rounding out our panel here. But otherwise, guys, thank you for watching. You can follow, of course, at the Lou Perez, at John Odermatt, at Brian McWilliams, and we are on the Lions of Liberty Network. So make sure if you subscribe to that, you will get all of our shows, including Politics. And never forget, they are all bloodsuckers, guys. Thank you for watching. Hit subscribe, hit notify, and we will see you 2 weeks from now. Later.
Let's begin. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.